Hi, I'm Mark Britton. I'm here at Snake Alley Festival of Film in 2013. I'm here with Robert Biggs for 1 Year's Crop. Robert, tell me about your film.
My film is set on my family farm in Clark County, Illinois, actually just across the river, Wabash River, from Terre Haute, Indiana. And it is a monologue, actually, wherein I talk about a musical for fools and puppets that I wrote and took to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe in the summer of 2011. And 1 Year's Crop is a story that my father used to tell about a piece of ground he had a chance to purchase at auction when I was a baby. And as my dad said, I went to the courthouse steps, I stood there during the auction, and I didn't even open my head. He stood there, didn't bid on it, and didn't get it. So all our growing up, my family and I, if we were driving around in the pickup cab with my dad, touring the land after a rain or something, he'd waggle his finger out the window as we went by that 40 acres, and he'd say, "I could have had that ground. All it would have cost me was 1 year's crop." So in 2006, when I finished my play, and knew I was going to be going into rehearsal later on and still putting it together, I came up with this idea of making this documentary because that year my brother and I actually retired from running the farm and doing the farming. Someone else farms it for us now. And so for the first time in the fall of 2007, after 20-some years of running the farm, my brother and I actually were going to make some money, because before that, every penny went back into the farm. So I took my 1 year's crop, and I took my play to Edinburgh. So that's where the title and the film came from. So it's me actually on the farm, shot in 4 seasons, talking about my father's story, growing up there, what's happened to the little town, what it was like before, what it's like now, you know, after all these years. I'm 62. It's changed a lot in 62 years. Yeah. So it's a rather an odd little documentary in that it's actually kind of a memoir. Yet, in the midst of it, you also see scenes from the show. And then I talk about pieces of the show that very clearly are in the show because of where I grew up, because of who I am from the family I came from. And in my case, especially, my mom and dad lost a couple of little girls, my sisters, and only my brother and I survived. So there's a great deal of loss in the family. And so also is there a lot of loss in my musical. And so it's a bit about where does art come from, and how do we make something up? And for me, it is a conversation that lets me tie together where I came from, this very rural, rather isolated place in the world, to being in the theater business and being an actor and being out in the world and certainly away from the farm to be able to pursue that. And yet, now I've written this play that I realize has so much to do with the farm. And at this point in my life, I'm looking at how I came to be from there to there. And that's what it's about.
Okay, so it's a reflective piece that tells us a little bit of story about your life as much as what would you say was one of the more challenging aspects of this? It started out as a play written for stage. What was the most difficult challenge you experienced in turning this into a motion picture project?
Well, it was my idea to do the documentary, and I have an old buddy, Bob Dodd, who runs DD TV down in Dallas, Texas. And Bob is an old theater friend years ago, playwright, director. And we have been at opposite ends of the country, and Bob's been in advertising, and I've been, still in theater. And we were looking forward to working together again. But just about the time I had the play done, and he was going to come shoot us in Showcase in Massachusetts prior to our heading to Scotland. Bob was unable to come. And so at that point, I no longer had a film crew, a director, because I was going to just give him a play. He was going to then work from that and build a documentary. So I really, as I got the play done and went ahead and went into showcases, I had hired a lighting designer who actually turned out to be an incredible director of photography, Richard Sands. And as he fell in love lighting my play and began to hear about the idea I had that wasn't going to maybe happen, Rick volunteered to help me get started and hopefully, get the project going. Bob would be able to, get things rectified in his world and drop in and continue the project. So really the hardest thing was having this good idea and the disappointment of losing Bob and, his efforts in it. And, then how to go on from there. So I'm an accidental filmmaker. As an actor, I've been in a couple of films that have been in festivals and such, so knew it from that point. But this is the first film I have ever made, let alone be the subject of it as well. And that really was the big challenge. Yeah.
What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of having completed this project?
It's my father's story, One Year's Crop. And it's my brother and I are the third generation to have worked the farm, founded by my grandfather, Roscoe. And so I think the most important thing to me is honoring the legacy of my grandfather and my father. And my father passed away just about 7 weeks before we began shooting. And so the monologues, of course, really changed because here I had this thing I was going to talk about grief and loss, and that was very present, So the most rewarding thing is that I can show it to my family and friends back in Westfield, and they recognize my father's life and influence within it. Yes.
So tell me, are there any other projects that you're working on that you'd like to share with us?
Sure. The play I wrote is called The Dick and the Rose, and it is a very raucous and bawdy play. 52 minutes long, intended for fringe festivals. We played the Edinburgh Fringe and then Fringe NYC, New York City Fringe, last summer. So project-wise, what's coming up is The Dick and the Rose is actually Act 1 of a 3-act trilogy of short, they're all short, 52 minutes, 45, and about probably 43 will be the length of the 3 plays. So the second installment has been in development, and I have most of the script done, but I actually start work in 2 weeks with the workshops, where I actually take the scenes, start putting them on their feet. And in my case, because I'm using puppets, we also are building puppets. And the main puppet in this one is a coyote, representing the trickster and the fool. So we are going to be working scenes so I can go into rewrite after that, and developing the prototype I now have of a coyote into an actual workable puppet. My puppets in The Dick and the Rose were all little kind of, started out as sock puppets like Sherry Lewis and little Muppet kind of things. They kind of looked like Cabbage Patch dolls, actually. And they were the babies in this tragic family drama in The Dick and the Rose. So the next one is called Riley Ann Visits the Outcast Cafe, and it's actually also set on the farm, about an Alzheimer's-ridden early onset father and his 20-something daughter who is trying to let him still live at home, pop in and take care of him. And lo and behold, he's having this incredibly intense relationship with a coyote. And is that real or is it not? She goes through that thing of With dementia of you'll be talking with your loved one, and one moment you are their son, the next moment you're their husband, the next moment you're their little brother. You know, time is just, and relationship is just, you know, fluid. And so that's what that'll be about. And we also are looking at using the 1 year's crop as actually the first installment of a series of short docs that answer the question, where does art come from? That's very much the unspoken question in my doc, by accident. But actually my wife, who is my producer, noticed that, you know, really this is very much not only about the farm and you, but kind of about where does art come from. So back in Berkshire County, Massachusetts, where we live, it's a real cultural center out there and has been since, you know, the 18th century. And so we are identifying some artists locally who we can, very much like me, let them talk about their upbringing, where they came from, where they are now, and how do you see yourself in your art? How do you see those relationships? How do you see those places in your art? So that's what we're after, and we're really thrilled to be in the film business at this point. For me as a storyteller, it's a venue I really never had really considered pursuing. Theater was hard enough, you know, being a playwright. So we're pretty happy with it and encouraged. This is just our second festival. We had our world premiere last week, and this was our Midwest premiere. So
Very cool.
we're really figuring this out as we go. And if it wasn't for our DP, Richard Sands, who has mentored us along and shared his wealth of experience in features, in docs, as a grip, as a gaffer, as a DP, a cinematographer, he's done it all. Very talented man, and has made a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
It's always very challenging to pull together a project.
Yes.
And as you said, you know, a lot of people have to wear a lot of different hats. So
Oh yes, yes. We really shot. It was just Rick doing all the camera, all the sound, and all Deborah and I did was help him carry things around. He was a one-person crew, and he did it out of love first for my play, and then for us as he got acquainted with us working on the play.
is there anything else you'd like to share with us here today? Is there any other, what's your next motion picture project you've got coming?
Me? As an actor, I have nothing shaking right now. I have a couple of possibilities, as one always does. And something I would like to say is just what a wonderful, wonderful festival this is. I know that we, and I keep hearing from the other filmmakers I'm meeting, how well cared for and honored and respected for that effort we've made, because most of us are, you know, doing it out over our own pockets with a little help from our friends, and calling in favors, and returning the favor down the road. You know, I'll go hold a boom for somebody sometime, you know. And this is just a wonderful event here in Burlington, and I love Burlington, the old architecture. And in my doc, I talk about my little old town that's kind of dried up and blown away, and that people here are, you know, finding reuse and not letting the town be washed away. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So thank you, Robert, for your time, and thank you for your great work that you shared with us.
Oh, thank you.